Yeah, so thank you very much, Deborah, for making this possible, and hello to everybody. I'm Claudia Neubauer. I'm working as a program officer at the Fondation Charles-Léopold for the Progress of Humankind. And so I will moderate this small hour on the European Green Deal. We are very happy to have with us Wojtek Kalinowski, whom in FPH we know quite well because Institute Veblen is one of our partners. So just to present very briefly Wojtek to you. So Wojtek is a sociologist and historian by training. Then he worked as a journalist for a well-known French monthly economic review called Alternative Économique. And he has been co-directing Institute Veblen almost since its very beginning, almost 10 years ago. And he writes very regularly articles on monetary reforms, on social issues, and more broadly about ecological economics. He also published a book that was very well welcomed in France on the Swedish model. So it's about the social democratic thinking and economy. And Institute Veblen itself, it's a French-based or Paris-based think tank on that is specialized in ecological transition from an economic perspective. And so over the last 2 years, in connection to our issue of today, Institute Veblen, they have published 2 policy notes, one on the Green Deal and the second one, so more recently, on the recovery plan. The 2 are available in English, so they were translated. So don't hesitate to say if you would like to have them. So we are coming now with this, after this short introduction, to our main issue of today, what is the European Green Deal. So as you remember, it was presented in December 2019. And on the one side, it has very ambitious goals that could mark a kind of turning point in Europe's history. And on the other side, the project suffers from many weaknesses and inconsistencies and it needs to be enhanced. And just to remind you, Ursula von der Leyen, when they presented the project, said that it would be about reconciling our economy with the planet and to make it work for our people. So Wojtek, after all this, the floor is yours, around 20 minutes, and then we can have a discussion.
Yes, thank you so much for the invitation and for the kind presentation. As mentioned by Claudia, we are working on the ecological transition since quite many years now, and since the last year, among many other organizations, we took on the Green Deal as we see it in some kind of political window of opportunity to seize, because if you know, in an introductory way, we could say that the European Union has almost traditionally high levels of ambition on climate objectives, but it's not always fulfilling those targets already set. And if we look at the Green Deal, what many organizations, including ourselves, found very interesting about it is, if you compare it to the previous plans, like the Juncker Commission had the Clean Planet for All, for instance, it's this one is much more comprehensive, overarching, and it clearly looks for more consistency, whereas traditionally the sustainability in the European politics, it was like one of the many silos. We have the sustainability politics on one side, and then all the other issues. So I think this is why many organizations found this project very enthusiastic, and I think realistically it's the best. It's the best chance we have to make some political advances. So we are very positive about this. We also participate in quite many networks, discussions, and advocacy programs on how to improve this and how to defend it, because it's almost more important to defend it as it is before to going on how to improve it. So what I suggest now is to very rapidly show you what it is about. As mentioned by Claudia, the initial communication by the European Commission was presented in the last December, and at this moment, what we can say is that the Green Deal is basically a framework or a roadmap. So what I mean by that is it's quite a general document, which will be complemented by many other documents to follow. So it's really a starting point of a long process, and the issue for us is being to follow this process and to try to influence it in positive way, and to look out for dangers, because there will be, I think, many political dangers on the way. So just in an overview, this roadmap, it contains objectives, which are mostly about climate objectives, but there are also other aspects of environmental crisis mentioned. The biodiversity is mentioned quite extensively, but without the same clarity of on the objective side. There are lots of policies and policy tools suggested. Plus, there is, most importantly, there is a timetable, quite extensive timetable for different directives, strategic plans, action plans, regulations. So we won't have time to dig in all that, because it's a very comprehensive flow. But of course, the devil is in the details. We can, our judgment about the Green Deal is actually it depends on what will be actually put into this legislative flows in the years to come, in the months and years to come. So initially, the Commission presented a timetable, and then many of those projects were delayed during to the COVID crisis. But basically, the main points are the climate objectives. There are policies for the energy sector, for the renewables. There are policies for the renovating buildings. There are many industry initiatives, a very strong big package on the circular economy, but also on the digital transition. And there are many things about mobility. So this may be other 5 points, but it's much broader than that. For instance, there is a point on agriculture. If I have time, I'll mention that. There's also a part of the package is a renewal of the sustainable finance directive. So as you see, it's an overarching initiative, and they're trying to focus the European policies in one direction. Which is politically, I think it's the most important takeaway, is that there is this will to have a consistent plan and to look out for inconsistencies. And then there is an investment plan attached to that. So it was the initial figure of 1 trillion euros for the next budget period. And it's technically speaking, it's a low additionality, in the sense that most of the money was already there before. So it was not. What they do is to add to reshift envelopes towards the Green Deal objectives. And there is also within this there is a just transition fund, which is basically there to help the most weak suffering regions from the transition. It's basically for training and reskilling of workforce. Poland is the country that will benefit most of it. and it's very much on helping regions depending on fossil fuel extraction. So of course Poland is one of the main, with all the coal in Poland, it's one of the main beneficiaries from this program. And I will also mention that there are, of course, very profound links between that package, which was presented in December and January, and what happened afterwards, because then we have had the COVID crisis, and then we have national and European COVID recovery packages. So the European one was presented in May, and it had strong focus on the Green Deal, on the digitalization and what they call resilience. It's once more, it's a very extensive package with lots of items in it, so I won't go into it, but I will just mention that in that package you have the revision of the community budget, of the next budget, a strengthening of that budget. You have the next generation EU, which is the main point. Of course, you all heard about the debate about the EU borrowing directly funds and spending them or giving them directly and giving them to member states. This is a major, politically, it's a major game changer, I think, in European governance. This point. So this money will be spent throughout the next years, and in part reinforce the Green Deal. How much? There is this is linked to the Green Deal. So now, if we look on the finance side, as I said, the initial package was about 1 trillion investment. Half of it was to come from increased greening of the current budget, so basically shifting the envelopes, and the rest is thought to come from leverage effects. So this is the same idea as in the initial Juncker plan, where you have a very small public guarantees of 5% on loans. They are thought to provide 95% or 90% of private funds to be invested in the Green Deal projects. So so there is a strong reliance on green investments, and there is a huge. We can come back to that part in the discussion if you like. And now there is also this debate I already mentioned about how the recovery funds should be used. So this is the main overview, I think, about the thrust of the Green Deal, coupled now with the recovery package. There is also an ongoing debate among think tanks, researchers, and about how much investments are really needed into that, and is crowding in private investments enough, and what about public investments? This is a wider debate. I think to cut it short, our position is that however impressive the sums look today, the sums are still insufficient, and the main point would be that crowding in private finance is very important, but it relies upon a selection of projects, in the sense that the industrial projects selected through the Green Deal are selected upon that criteria, how easy it is to claim the economic business model, a business model. So typically hydrogen energy distribution is gives much more place than let's say agricultural transition or railway across Europe, because it's much more easy to found a business model on hydrogen. So what I mean is that the finance side predetermines in a way what you focus on when you look for investments to be selected, and that is a part of the discussion today. So I don't know how maybe if I have five or 5 minutes still, maybe I can dig in some of the
You have still almost 10 minutes, Wojtek. Yeah.
Okay. So we have some more time. So maybe I will just shortly present, not in details, but main points about different aspects of this, of what's actually in the Green Deal. So the main part, of course, is on the climate targets. So it is the main part of this is a new European climate law. All this is thrown into the European governance, which is very complex, as you know, where it's involving both the Parliament, the Commission, the states. But basically the main point is the carbon neutrality objective, and then for 2050, and then the increasing climate target for 2030 to at least 50%, always comparing to the basis year 1990, and there is a discussion of probably 55, and there is strong support for the 55 objective. It's the Commission has the Commissioner von der Leyen has expressed its support for it, political support for it. The Parliament as well, but it's politically tricky in many member states, as you know, and hence the third part, which is the revising of the climate efforts. As you know, the European Union has this collective target of emissions, but it's distributed very unevenly between the member states. So typically, the highest targets lie on Sweden, and the lowest on Poland and some countries in Eastern Europe, which reflects, the uneven conditions, energy conditions, also the uneven playing field. So this is a double-edged strategy, but because of course this eases the pressure for some countries like Poland, but of course we all know that this effort sharing drives the business transformation. So of course the Swedes, for instance, accept this voluntarily because they know that there are business opportunities coming out of it. Being the first on the green technology side, they hope to continue the expansion of green technologies as they already started. But of course, buying in some reluctant countries into this 55 plus will rely upon this revising of climate efforts among member states. So now on the carbon pricing and environmental standards, of course you all heard about this adjusting of the carbon price at the EU borders proposal. It's not yet a proposal; it's just an idea, but it's strongly defended in the European Parliament by some member states. There is a revision of the energy taxation directive with a minimum taxation across Europe. There is a series of standards and regulations concerning land and forest use. All this will be fed into the EU accounting for how every European country accounts for their energy reductions and the saved emissions, etc. And last but not least, there is a possible extension. As you see, many of those sentences are vague. And that's the main point, I think, at the current level. There are many letters of intent in the Green Deal, but all will depend upon what will happen later on. So there is a possible extension of the ETS, which is the emission trading system, to new sectors, road transport, shipping, buildings. As you know, we have a huge divide in Europe among the ETS system, which covers, let's say, some 11,000 units of production and businesses across Europe, which are the most heaviest polluters, heaviest I mean, the industries with the highest carbon emissions, and on one side, and the carbon taxes on the other side for the others. So it's a bit tricky to politically to combine the two, but there is an ambition to include new sectors into the ETS system, which I think would be a wonderful idea, especially if it would also apply to the airline industry. But this is not on the table. There is, of course, the energy package. So, as you know, every national member state, every member state has now a national energy and climate plan, and so a big chunk of the Green Deal is the coordination. So it's up to the member states to revise these plans according to the new targets, and then to present these plans to the Commission, and then to discuss it. And that's why many of the decisive steps of the Green Deal will take place on national levels. So it's not by far not a Brussels only discussion. There is here in France we have an ongoing discussion about the national strategy on low carbon strategy, which is sort of translating the European objectives. And there is a huge political pressure to lower some of those targets. So we're trying to resist that pressure. So lots of the details will also be on the national level as well. So there is a wave of renovation for the construction sector. This is one of the most clearest points when we all see on the national levels also national plans for the construction sector, for the isolation, thermic isolation of buildings. You have the European strategy for the integration of energy networks, and another strategy documents for offshore and wind turbines. And this is only the major points. There are many other items mentioned. On industrial side, the Commission relies much more on the circular economy. So there's a huge package, which is previous package actually. So the Green Deal sort of reshapes the circular package which pre-existed and puts it into the Green Deal. So in a way, lots of those ideas, lots of those policies, or even suggested policies pre-existed as well. And so they are sort of reshaped into one deal, one Green Deal, but it's not a criticism. I mean, it's a good way to sell the whole package politically. So there are some objectives, proposed objectives. Well, I should also, of course, stated that when the European Commission presented all this, all these are, of course, proposals. So when you read ending the use of single-use plastics by 2030, it's only a proposal. So we'll see what comes out of it once it comes out of the pipeline going through the council and the parliament, etc. There is an action plan of more technical one, financial support to the most innovative technologies to decarbonize, I don't know, steel production, for instance. There's lots of technical innovations in some countries, especially in France, in Sweden, in other countries, on how to decarbonize the steel production, the concrete production, etc. So the Commission will suggest new funds to this to help this. As I said, a renewed action plan to the circular economy.
3 minutes left. Wojtek,
sorry?
3 minutes left. 3 minutes left.
3 minutes left. Okay, so I won't have the time to go through all those elements of this. There is also a package on sustainable mobility. Maybe a point about the agriculture. As I said, it's in there, but incompletely, in the sense that the Commission suggests 40% of the CAP budget to climate action. I don't know why 40, why not 50 or 60 or 100, but still, what's it? And the question is, of course, what about the other 60%? Is it working against the climate action, or is it neutral? So this is an open question. There is also this very interesting farm to fork strategy, which is very interesting in the sense that they try to think the whole value chain of the agriculture from the land use to the consumption side, and there is also this recommendation that every member state should integrate the Green Deal objectives into their specific agriculture plans. So there is this thrust to integrate this. I will skip the biodiversity. It's the weak part of the whole issue, and there are the recommendations are very vague. There are no clear targets on this, but basically I think that the Natura 2000 program will be reinforced in the sense that there will be more land covered by this program. So for the last minute, I will just wrap this up, and how we should go forward from this, as I see it. I mean, I'll stand on this. So the main point is that we have to defend this Green Deal against greenwashing, which might happen in every pipeline I mentioned. So it's a very comprehensive task, because there are so many pipelines that should be followed and checked up. But there are many NGOs and many think tanks working on this. So I hope that collectively we will have the force to. There is an issue of coordination of the civil society. Because this is overwhelming. So no one is able to cover the whole thing. So how do we coordinate and keep updated about what's happening in every pipeline? This is a question. I don't have an answer to that. There is a huge need for reinforcing the sustainability policies for governance, in the sense that the European is coordinating more and more. You have the European semester, you have the impact studies, you have the earmarking of the European budget. So concrete tools for reinforcing the governance. But if you look at the European semester, which is the main tool, I mean, the environmental part today is very weak. And last year, even the European Parliament even rejected a proposal to introduce new indicators into, like, environmental and social indicators into the semester. So there's a huge political issue is what are the tools that we will use to scrutinize and to govern all these processes. And the same goes for the coordination between the member states and the EU level states. As I said, a huge part of the EU Green Deal, in the sense, both the action plans, the concrete industrial projects, or the concrete sector policies, but also funds will flow through the member states. There is also a chunk where the EU will act directly with reinforcing its own programs, etc. So it's both federal action in the sense and intergovernmental action. So given the intergovernmental state of the European Union, this coordination between the Commission and the EU member states is vital. So once more, every member state will present its national action plan for the climate, its national action plan for the agriculture, etc., etc. There will be talks. There already talks about the EC, about with the European Commission. So who has access to these discussions? Is this coordination just an echo chamber between national representatives from ministries and the members from the European Commission only, or will be this a more broader political process open to the Parliament? This is a huge stake. And last, I finish by this. We still have to improve the Green Deal. I mean, I could come back to this in the discussion if you want to. As I said in the beginning, it's the best shot we have. It's really an improvement considering the previous plan. So it's a political opportunity to seize. Still, there are lots of chunks of the European policies which are like treated separately, as there was no influence upon this climate objective. I be it the trade policies, for instance, be it what do you say, regulations for competition, on the internal market, state aids rules. There are some exceptions. More the positive sign is that the Commission opened up for rethinking the rules for state aid and for the competition, in the sense that there would be some sort of climate clauses in these areas. So this work towards a more comprehensive and consistent framework is still going on, but there are still parts of the European policies which are really outside of the discussion, as if they have no influence upon it, whereas this is clearly not the case. So I think we have still to go several steps to go if we want a real mainstreamed and consistent European environmental Green Deal. So thank you. I hope it was not too long.
Yeah, thank you very much, Wojtek, for this overview. So I would like to propose to you that we maybe take right now 3 or 4 questions or comments, and please say when you intervene who you are and for which foundation you are working. I will try to see everybody. Voila, yeah, so unmute yourself and let's go for 3-4 comments, going back to Wojtek, and if we have time, we can have a second round.
I'm happy to go first, but I don't mean to jump through the queue. So my name is Konstantin. I'm a director at the European Climate Foundation, where I'm in charge of the European Green Deal. So it is very close to my heart. I guess I would have 2 comments of things that we noticed, and that was also reflected in the presentation. The first one is, I'm worried about the social dimension of the European Green Deal. So when I hear things that the Commission is pushing for the inclusion of the heating sector, the housing sector, the transport sector within the ETS, where there would be a price on carbon for these things, I'm very afraid of social reluctance and just making sure that basically the most vulnerable within the economy would actually suffer the most. So I'm very reluctant to that kind of direction. And I want to make sure that there is more of a social dimension to it that goes beyond some kind of like massive just transition fund, but really something that would look really into the household level to make sure that we still bring everybody on board, because this is very important. The second thing is the politics of the European Green Deal. I think what we're seeing at the moment is a very strong buy-in from within the Commission. I think von der Leyen is more committed to the European Green Deal than Juncker has ever been to the Energy Union, for instance. It's her project. She's really pushing it through. And the other commissioners don't have much of a say there. I think there is a risk that remains limited to the Commission, and that the member states would actually not necessarily be much bought in. I think there will be a need to really work on the national visions and orientations of the European Green Deal to make sure that actually it makes sense and everybody sees the interest in it. And the last thing is, I just want to mention the fact that China has announced its emission speaking earlier this week. I think for me, it is very clear in my head that there needs to be a story about how actually the Chinese premier met with von der Leyen 2 weeks ago. Climate was number 2 item on the agenda. And the fact that Europe is moving forward actually give confidence to the rest of the world to move along. And I think this is quite remarkable and this is a success story. And so this is the kind of thing that we also keep an eye on, which is, you know, politicians need reward, and this is clearly a political reward for them, and we probably need to tell that story a bit more. So thank you.
So feel free if someone else wants to step in.
I just wanted to, Oliver here from Agropolis Foundation, just wanted to follow up on that last question pointed out. I was just wondering what would be the impact, if at all, of China's announcement of carbon neutrality by 2060 to this dynamics at the European level?
Well, that's...
Just let's see, is there someone else who would like to intervene? If not, we can... Okay, John. Yeah, John and Paul. Okay.
So John Cracknell from the JMG Foundation here. Well, just to build on those questions about China, what are the implications as you see it of whatever the US election result is on the 3rd of November, or sometime after the 3rd of November if it takes longer to figure that out? You know, depending on either of the candidates winning, how does that affect this agenda?
Paul, you wanted to intervene, I think.
Yes, thank you very much. From Neubauer Foundation, I just wanted to say first, thank you for a great presentation. I was curious, now that we're seeing that the conservation and nature agenda is really taking the elevator, that solutions for climate are often, I mean, nature-based solutions are advanced as solution for climate. And in this Green Deal, we see essentially technical solution linked to consumption and production. So I would be interesting to hear the opinion of our speaker on how to better integrate the nature and climate agenda, which is what we're seeing in a higher level of politics at the moment. Thank you.
So, Wojtek, maybe.
Oh yes, well, yeah. I don't have other answers to all this. Maybe I kick off with the last one, because it's a bit, you know, it's a broader discussion. I mean, it's I avoided, you know, my personal stand on this. I think that a big chunk of this is integrating new indicators into the European governance and notably into the European semester. This is which is sort of emerged as one of the key elements for this, because it is true that that you have a lot of faith put into green technologies into this, and I understand this, and I mean it's but basically the European, we wrote this in the paper, that basically when you have an investment plan in Europe, you should have like the objectives of that investment plan, which should be like I don't know, you have a let's say a region in some country where we have 15% of people commuting today with using trains, railway solutions, and 60% on cars. So the objectives for an investment plan would be the shift of the consumption. So from or let's say you have a local food production of 5%. So the objectives for investment should be to raise it to 10% or 15%. So what I mean is that the really tricky question is that this time sustainability is in the lifestyle. It's not in the technical system. This technical system can reduce the pressure on you know per capita of consumption, but it is not a guarantee in itself. So there's lots of, I mean, this is a bigger discussion about you know, the decoupling, sustainability, the limits of technologies, etc. But on a practical level, what I mean, because many of those discussions are quite theoretical, academics, etc. But when I try to put it into politics, it's like every investment plan should be led by consumption indicators, in the sense that the investment should serve to change the pattern of consumption and not just reflect upon there is a new technology which is better than the previous one, so we must use this so we must support this new technology, because then you have all these rebound effects in the system. I'm sure you know this. So that is how we can start to integrate the integration of the planetary boundaries into politics. It's starting with a solid vision of sustainability as consumption on the consumption side, because that's where the sustainability lies. And then the investment plan should only be a tool for that. So of course this is a bit, if you now look at this ambition is a bit overstretched, of course, if you look at the European Green Deal as it is today. But still there is lots of talks about the sustainable consumption. So I think that is how I see this. That's how I think that the local level is a key level for many of these objectives, because it's on local level that you could have local policies for shifting the consumption, and the policies should really have those indicators aiming and shifting the lifestyles, shifting the. Of course, we live in a democracy, so we will not just decree that everyone has to take the train instead of the car, but it's a mixture of supporting policies, of regulations, of taxation, etc., but still, the overall that is the main point. Main point as I see it, and this is of course a huge debate, and I think that there's also many synergies between biodiversity protection and climate action, actually, which are not completely in the thinking of the European Commission, but at least at least we have a Natura 2000 program. So at least you have surface lands protected by that program. So that is the most clear part I've looked into what is in it. It's the thing that this program should be extended. So this is a very good idea, because in many regions in Europe today you have these compensation schemes where you destroy the biodiversity and then you compensate. This is a very fashionable scheme, as you know, even for public development banks who open compensation banks. I think it's maybe useful in some cases, but basically we also have to have this preservation of land in our site. And but I'm sorry that this is your question, the last question. My answer is too long, but it's key question. But it's fundamentally, it's also about what is the finance model of the whole thing. I mean, because if you want to protect land, you cannot hope that this will automatically generate a business model of the protecting land. So you must admit that there are cases of the transition where you have business models emerging, and you have lots of cases where these business models are very weak or non-existent. So there is sort of natural shift among politicians and also in the Green Deal towards the first case, of which for understandable reasons. Okay, so this is as for the other points, I agree on the social dimension completely. I think that there is a little hope to put to strengthen the Green Deal, the social dimension in the Green Deal as it is today. The Just Transition Fund is completely insufficient for that, and it is completely compensatory for some, only like compensation for some regions only. But there is on the positive side, what happened afterwards is the whole COVID package. As you see, there has been a major game changer afterwards, and this is on the European borrowing and the ECB actions. I haven't spoken about the monetary policies, but we work very extensively on that part, in the sense, what could the European Central Bank do and the European Investment Bank do more actively to strengthen this. I think that we at some stage we have to recognize that the positive externalities, as economists say, the environmental positive externalities from land use, etc., when they are not presented as a business model, so they cannot pay themselves. You need more brave support from the states, and the states need help from the central bank. Eventually, it comes to the monetary policy in many of those areas. And in that sense, what happens afterwards is a very positive sign, because on one side, the European Union at last accepted to have common finance programs, common borrowing programs, which is expresses some sort of solidarity, a first step to a federalist program. And on the other side, the ECB itself opens up more and more for integrating environmental criteria into its own actions. So they really realize that monetary policy is not neutral to climate. This is a major philosophical change among central bankers. So I don't know what will come out of this. But I think that if you want to put the social dimension into it, it's mainly about helping states to fulfill, to secure this, extend the social security programs, etc., 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 rather than inventing new additional programs into the Green Deal. So maybe the recovery package offers quite some opportunities in that respect. And as for the international side, well, that's not really. I'm not really an expert on this. So for what it's worth, I mean, this is a huge step from China, and I think that if Trump wins, it will be a disaster once more. So then, but anyway, the international governance is shifting towards the European Union will profit politically from this realignment of China, whatever happens in the US. That's my thinking. That's my thinking about it. And as for the US itself, well, God help us. I don't know.
Maybe Wojtek, there was also this question about. There was also this question about that the European Green Deal right now seems to be really rather a project of Ursula von der Leyen than of member states. Maybe you can.
Yes, and I think that the national civil societies failed in many ways, in the sense that they didn't give much attention to this as it should. So this is also about what is the European public space, and I mean it really comes down to national public spaces, and we tried as we could and we're not the only ones actually. But clearly the European Green Deal as it is today, with all those weaknesses I mentioned, is still better than the French national plan. So what we try to do is to play out the two levels, in the sense that showing that the French government says to be very they want to be the European leader on green finance, on the climate action, etc. So we sort of use this politically to play them out, but I think much more could be done. upon this, and in particular, there will be all those directives I mentioned. They will be translated into national laws afterwards. So it already started. For instance, the financial sustainability plan will be revised on the European level, and the French already moved on this. So yes, I think that we failed collectively to give the, to put this on the national agendas, but it's not too late, in the sense that it's still on the, this is what is on the table politically for this commission. So it won't go away. So we still have to and the public awareness about the climate issues are just growing and growing and growing. I mean, it's very clear in France and in many other countries. So this is maybe also in some way, it's maybe a way to give the EU itself some sort of reinforced legitimacy, because this could be the European project, that could be sell to the younger generations who ask, what's Europe about and what's there in for me? I mean, that's how I see it, that this is not only climate goals, it's also a way to present the European project itself, its meaning on a very profound level. So, but this is not really done in the national societies as I see it, or it's done very, very badly.
We have 5 minutes left. Maybe we can take just another question or comment. I don't see a hand rising, so then I would ask you a question. Wojtek, I wanted to know, how do you see how we can use the European Green Deal to strengthen the ecological transition in the European territories and in the context of a local economy? So yes. Is there already something concrete on this, or is it rather a weak point?
It is a weak point in the sense that territorial action is, or the local level is seen mostly as to be compensated for the damages, in the sense that there are some regions depending on the fossil fuels, so they will give some money for retraining, etc. It's not really seen as the engine of the whole thing, and I think that the good news, for instance, is that as you know, Claudia, the European Union recognized a new form of community, for energy communities. It's a new form, a new legal form for. It's, I think, the first time where they actually recognize such kind of legal entity would be like co-op form or non-for-profit. And it's really invented to support the green energy transition on the local level. So reinforcing the co-op movement, or at least trying to invent new forms, letting the territories having new forms to implicate the citizens locally into this project. And so this is a vehicle. Potential vehicle for finance, for European finance to trickle down to local level. It's also a vehicle for political policies, because now in every national country there are some policies for reinforcing the transition on the local level. In France, we have this ecological transition contracts. Signed between the government and the countries. It started off like just basically the government borrowing funds, 4 or 5 million, now to billions, now to 12 billions a year, and funds available for local authorities who present a transition project, and then they receive the funds from. This is a very interesting, embryonic, because it's a very interesting beginning of something. I think that we should generalize that kind of movement and reinforce the flows. So one, I think that one huge ambition would be to invent concrete channels for all these Green Deal ideas and especially the funds to be channeled through to the local level, in the sense that it will also support local invention and local innovation. So not only the European Union thinks out of exact projects to build, to pursue, but also it gives increased opportunity for local authorities or coalitions of private and public actors local to present projects. This is because, as we know, as we all know, there is this involvement also creates more legitimacy for the transition itself, in the sense acceptance of the transition. So the more committed citizens are, the more political acceptance there is for the transformations. We see it very concretely on local renewable projects. So this is a bit missing, but I think we have such a toolbox already, that we should put it together, the national policies which already exist, to strengthen who empower both private and public actors on local level, and this energy community initiative and all the money that flows throughout the recovery package and the Green Deal, etc. It's not there yet, but there's a huge potential for inventing, proposing things in the next years.
Okay, thank you very much, Wojtek, for your presentation and also for your answers and reflections you are sharing. So with Institute Veblen, I don't know, so we are really at the end. It's 11 o'clock. Deborah, do you want to just say what happens now after this webinar in the minutes?
Yes, yeah, thank you very much for participating. So I will send the slides that Wojtek showed, and I will send a short report. So thank you very much for participating.
Yeah, thank you very much, Deborah and EFC, for organizing, and Wojtek for intervening, and all the others for sharing interest in this very important issue.
I will also forward you the links to the notes, the policy notes I mentioned by Claudia.
Yeah, indeed, that would be very helpful. Okay. Yeah, so hope to see you soon all next, maybe on the same issue, maybe on other issues, and have a good day.
Thank you. Many thanks.
Bye.